So here's just a quick demonstration, very small data set, but basically from the import to kind of the processing with the black and white targets for the sake of registration. Pretty much the same process if you were to be using spheres, but this is really going to come into play if you're in a environment that doesn't benefit from cloud to cloud registration. Example would be kind of an outdoor environment, lots of trees, lots of vegetation, lots of stuff that's going to be moving and aren't nice planar surfaces that the software can use and recognize. So let these three setups import. So once again, this is a very easy small data set, very close to not only targets but to one another. Honestly, be no problem to do this cloud to cloud, but we'll do a black and white. So if you were to let the black and white target or let the software try to automatically find them, it's going to find them and also try to create links based off of the black and white targets. So I'm going to do this 100% manual, well, manual to a degree. So I'm going to have this disabled because everything's going to come in pretty close as is because I use the Field 360 app. But like I said, if you were to let this run auto black and white target, it's going to search for all your targets. It's going to create the target, the virtual target in the software in each of the setups, and it's going to try and create links based off that. So if it's a really large data set, not a bad idea to let that search and speed up some time down the road, but for now, just going to leave it off. So I'll leave my images imported, and we'll kind of walk you through once everything's imported. One note though to add is in the general settings, or sorry, the cloud to cloud settings, you're going to see this prioritize targets in cloud to cloud. So once you kind of get everything in the rough ballpark of registration using the cloud to cloud, so once again, this is an environment of lots of vegetation, very difficult for cloud to cloud to work efficiently and accurately. If you were to enable this, once you create those cloud to cloud links through your visual alignment, and if you have the black and white targets, you have basically targets applied to the center of them, it's going to then use those to do the final registration between setups. So for now, once again, I'm just going to leave that off, but know that you have that option. So now I'm going to let it import. So now that we have it imported, I just realized that I left the auto black and white import registration setting left on. So therefore I went through, it found all the black and white targets that it could, it created these targets for the sake of registration, and then even did that registration automatically. So you can see the three green links, the three setup links, and everything's tied together. So if it did not do that, or you had the auto black and white turned off, one, you wouldn't see these targets, but right now, because they're green, it's kind of like the visual indicator that they're used as a constraint for this registration as a whole. So if I were to go through and delete these links, and therefore all these individual setups would kind of be on their own, you'll see that these targets would turn red, meaning they're just in space and not used for any kind of constraints. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So what this looks like though, now that we kind of get into kind of this auto black and white, I just go into the setup cloud. You can see, right, the green target and the fact that it automatically snapped to the center. And then if you zoom way in, you can see the individual kind of points that are collected. So in Register 360 for black and white targets like this, I believe you need, I think it's like 13 rows of points going both directions from the center point. So you have at least 13 of these green points, 13 of the red points, and on the top side as well, and that's enough that the software can try to automatically snap to the center that you see here. So in this case, this was low density. They're very close, not too far away. When I go into a medium density scan, you'll just see that it's even denser. There's even more points. And kind of the rule of thumb is with black and white targets, you want, for a medium density scan, you want to try to be from at least within 50 foot of one of these targets. That'll allow enough points for the sake of the spacing, and it just helps the software more easily find this center point. So that's what the auto black and white does. It finds them, and once it creates those links, you still have the option to go through, and if you go right click on your bundle, you can see you have optimize with cloud to cloud, optimize with targets only, and then if you optimize whether you have targets only or cloud to cloud, it'll basically just optimize based off those settings. So right now, if I were to go optimize with cloud to cloud, if you notice, my target value was 0.002, now it went up to 0.003, and it's using this 0.005 kind of as my constraint for all the cloud to cloud links. The reason it's a little bit higher is because one, I was walking around inside, there's some paper flip-flopping, there's reflections through glass and through windows, there's my dog in the corner, right? These are all surfaces that the software is seeing and trying to utilize to some extent to register these setups as a whole. And so that's why the cloud is slightly higher here, whereas my black and white targets did not move, they were taped down, they were perfectly still. So this in theory should give me a little bit tighter registration for this data set. But this is all super helpful or more critical when you're outside kind of in vegetated areas, trees, shrubs, grass, stuff that has non-planar surfaces all throughout and are not in the same exact position. So, but if I go back and go optimize the targets only, you'll see that my target value did go down slightly, and that's my final registration. So next I'll kind of get into how do we manually set these and then manually kind of link stuff together. So for that to happen, I'm going to come in here and delete all of these setups. I'm going to pull them away, or all the links from the setups. So now, right, you're still going to see the black and white targets. They're still applied, but now they're red because there's no constraints, there's no links associated with them. So come into this setup, and I'm just going to come in and delete my links. Delete target, or I'm going to delete my target, not my links, because we have no links. So delete target, so it's just right-clicking, delete target, and delete target. I'll go into my medium density as well. And we'll do our last one. Except this time, I'm just going to relabel them. So this is setup number 4, and this is target 9. So I'm going to give it a smart label as 4. And this is target 6, but it's showing up as target 10 in the software. Label this as 6. This is 11, and this is target 1. And my last one, target 8 as 3. So what this is going to do, these smart labels, is so you had a much larger data set with hundreds of black and white targets used throughout the area you're scanning. If you'd give them all a smart label, right, you continually label each of these smart labels as the actual labeled target, the software is just going to much faster realize that and then set and basically do the registration using the help of these smart labels to kind of quickly find the associated targets between setups. And with between setups, I think you need 3 targets, 3 of the same targets visible between setups as you're going throughout a data set. Not 100% certain because I've never actually had the need for black and white target registration, but I think that is the requirement. So now we'll go into another setup, and we're going to go and create the black and white targets for registration. So you have to be in the setup cloud, which is super simple when we have them all split like they are. So go into my setup cloud, kind of zoom into an area, then we're going to go into the edit targets. And so here you have some options from delete, new sphere target, new black and white, new virtual, or you can refit it. So new virtual is quite simply you manually set that target wherever. So if I come in here, it's going to be, right, it's not centered, so I don't want to keep that, so I want to delete it. But if I were to come in here and go new black and white, and you just really just have to kind of click somewhere near the center, and the software will automatically snap it to the middle. So it's using, right, this green versus red. It's kind of using this information to help determine that center. So if I just click kind of near it, not exactly on it, you notice how it snapped it to the center. And so once you're happy with that, or to verify, you can go into the thumbnails tab of your targets, and you can see there's just the tiniest little kind of green crosshair, and this is overlaid of the point cloud and image with that kind of target that it's setting. So if you're happy, hit done, and then you can move on to the next one. And so just like before though, we want to give it that same smart label. So I want to say this is number 4, and there, Now we'll go on to the next. This is number 3, new black and white. Snapped it to the middle, but let's say I didn't like that. I could hit delete right here, hit done, or I can hit refit target. And you can click and it'll try to recenter and resnap it to the middle. So let's say I'm happy with that. I'll hit done. I want to label this as 14 that we just created, so give it the same smart label as 3. Now we'll go to our last one. This is target 1 and 1. And so here I was standing in front of the other, so I don't have a target that we can, or I don't have that 4th target that we can apply it to. So happy with those. Now I'll go into my last setup and create all those virtual targets again. So now we have to link these together. So just kind of like you do your visual alignment, you want to multi-select them. So now, right, instead of doing visual alignment, instead of using the point cloud to overlay them, we're going to go match targets. And so because we have the same targets captured, or 3 similar targets between setups, and we even have the smart label, it should be pretty well instantaneous when you go on match. So yep, one found. And you can go in and you can see, right, you can see your target constraints. You can see kind of the error, right, so it's best fitting the center of those targets. It's coming out to about a 32nd of an inch. So lastly, we'll just go and create our last one. Same thing, match targets. So now, just like before, you got your same kind of constraints. You can see some errors between them. And we'll do our last one. Match visual targets, and we'll go let that apply, and we should be set. So now we have all of our links created, and you can, if there's many more setups, you could go through and create as many links as you needed. Sometimes you may not have black and white for every single setup, so you can just do cloud to cloud and time together. And so with that though, kind of like I mentioned before, you have the option to prioritize targets in cloud to cloud. So say you had targets, like we have them set, but then I ran, if I had this checked and I ran a cloud to cloud and I didn't optimize, it's still going to use the targets kind of for that final registration and optimization. But that's helpful, like I said, if you have a data set that's kind of a hybrid of some areas have black and white targets, others do not, that's where you can kind of do a mix match of using everything together. So, but I'll leave that unchecked. And so now we kind of come in here and we can kind of see our target errors versus our cloud to cloud. So now I want to optimize using targets only. So looks like it brought it down slightly. So now it's just best fitting the 3 links, the 3 setups together based off of our black and white targets. And you always have the option if you wanted to go into optimize with cloud to cloud, or you can just optimize with your current settings. So, but that is kind of a very basic black and white target registration. So come in here, you can kind of see the targets overlaid and see the center between them. If you really wanted, you could go in to, you could basically snap a measurement between the vertices to kind of see how well everything's fitting together, but that should be the exact same value that you're seeing right here. So using, just comparing the links and the target values, that's kind of your average distance between targets, black and white targets. So, but just wanted to show you the true slice to show you, yep, everything looks nice and clean, no duplicates, no double ups, and my bundle cloud has a nice tight registration, even though it is such a small set between moving objects, moving surfaces, reflections. When you use those targets, it just helps to kind of eliminate all of that within the data set, or prevent it from using incorrect information or creating errors. And so we use black and white targets, but like I said, if you're using spheres, as long as you have the correct sphere size set, so in this links and the target options, when you have the sphere diameter, as long as you have that set, it should, when you go into the same setup cloud, you can come in here new sphere target, and you just simply select on the target. But in this case, because I don't have a sphere, it's going to fail to fit it. So exact same process, just for the fact that you're using spheres instead of targets. But that is kind of target registration in a nutshell.